This is it. It's the moment that has echoed through history for centuries. A single, brutal act of violence that toppled a giant and sent an entire empire spiraling into chaos. Today, we're going to break down the anatomy of that betrayal, the assassination of Julius Caesar in Act 3, Scene 1 of the play. This is where it all goes down, where arrogance, politics, and friendship collide in a moment that literally changes the world. So, the scene opens and you can already feel the tension in the air. It's the Ides of March. Caesar's walking to the Capitol, feeling pretty good about himself, and he sees the soothsayer. He kind of taunts him, right? The Ides of March are come. But the soothsayer's reply is just so simple and so chilling. Caesar, but not gone. Basically, the day isn't over yet. The clock is still ticking. And look, that wasn't his only chance to get out of this. He gets two more huge warnings. First, you have the soothsayer's reminder. Then, a man named Artemidorus literally shoves a letter into his hands, a letter that names every single conspirator and spells out the entire assassination plot. But what does Caesar do? In this big show of being a man of the people, he just waves it away, saying that anything that concerns him personally can wait. He seals his own fate, choosing his public image over a direct, credible threat to his own life. Okay, so the final warnings have been completely brushed aside, the stage is set, the conspirators start moving into position, and this is where their plan gets really clever and kind of sinister. They're going to do this whole thing right out in the open under the guise of official state business.
The plan is brilliant, really, because it's so simple. One of the plotters, Metellus Cimber, kneels in front of Caesar. He's got a petition, and he's begging for his banished brother to be allowed back to Rome. Now, this isn't a real plea, of course. It's just a pretext. It's the perfect excuse for all the other conspirators to crowd around Caesar, to get closer and closer until they're all within striking distance.
Let's get to the words that make this whole thing inevitable. As all these senators are kneeling around him, you think Caesar might be diplomatic? Nope. Instead, he unleashes the speech of monumental, unbending pride. Wow. He compares himself to the North Star, the one single fixed point in the entire night sky that never moves. What he's really saying is that while other men, normal men, might be swayed by begging and flattery, he is completely immovable. His decisions are absolute. He doesn't just see himself as a leader, he sees himself as being fundamentally different and better than every other person on the planet. This isn't just confidence. This is a textbook case of what the ancient Greeks called hubris. It's that excessive, blinding pride that makes you think you're untouchable. And that, right there, is the classic tragic flaw. You can just imagine the conspirators listening to this, and it's confirming everything they feared. This man believes he's a god, and he can't be reasoned with. And if you thought that was arrogant, he then delivers the final blow. When another conspirator kneels, Caesar just scoffs at him. He asks if he's trying to lift Mount Olympus, the literal home of the gods. So he's not just the North Star anymore. Now he's basically putting himself on the level of a god. In that moment, he leaves no room for debate, no room for compromise, really no room for anything but violence. Okay, so that's it. By comparing himself to a god, Caesar has crossed the final line. The pleas have been rejected with this insane arrogance, and the stage is now set for probably the most famous betrayal in all of literature. Casca says this absolutely electrifying line, "Speak, hands, for me. Words have failed. The time for talking is over. Now, only action will speak." And that's the signal. He pulls out his dagger, and he delivers the first stab. The assassination has begun. And then it's just pure chaos. The other conspirators rush in, a total frenzy of daggers and violence. Caesar, he tries to fight back, but he is completely overwhelmed, totally outnumbered. And then through this blur of bodies, he sees a face he trusts, a man he loves like a son. It's Brutus. And Brutus steps forward and delivers his own wound. "You too, Brutus?" These last words, they aren't a cry of physical pain. They are an expression of pure, soul-crushing heartbreak. What really kills Caesar here isn't the loss of blood from all those wounds. It's the shock, the realization that his beloved friend Brutus wants him dead. And if Brutus wants him dead, well, then he gives up. Then falls Caesar, and he dies. In the immediate chaos that follows, there's this desperate scramble by the assassins to frame what they've just done. They need to make sure this isn't seen as a murder, but as a noble, necessary sacrifice for the good of Rome. And right here, you see the central contradiction of their whole rebellion. On the one hand, they're shouting these incredible high-minded ideals, liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead. But on the other hand,
Brutus tells them to do this incredibly gruesome ritual, to literally bend down and bathe their hands and their swords in Caesar's blood. It's just this shocking collision of noble philosophy and absolute brutal savagery.
In this wild moment of foresight, Cassius declares that this very scene, this act, will be reenacted for centuries to come, in countries that don't even exist yet. It's such an ironic line because, of course, he has no idea that he is, himself, a character in a play by Shakespeare, proving his own prediction true for all of us right now. It's kind of mind-blowing.
So, just when the conspirators think they have everything under control, a new and very dangerous player enters the game, Mark Antony. He was Caesar's fiercely loyal friend, and they made sure to lead him away before the attack, but now he's back and he has to face his friend's killers. Now, Antony is playing chess here, not checkers. He is incredibly careful. He takes it step by step. First, safety. He sends a servant ahead to make sure he can approach without being killed himself. Second, he asks for their reasons. He wants to hear their side of the story. And then, the masterstroke. He asks for permission to speak at Caesar's public funeral. He's making himself seem reasonable, maybe even a little weak, but he is absolutely setting a trap.
This is such a powerful and disturbing image. Antony stands over Caesar's body, and one by one, he shakes the still bloody hands of every single man who murdered him. He's putting on a big show of making peace, of forming this tense truce, all while he's mentally marking each and every man for his eventual revenge. But the second he's alone with Caesar's body, wow, the mask comes right off. He basically apologizes to his dead friend for acting so meek and gentle with the men he calls these butchers. His grief, his rage, it's all real. And now we finally see his true intentions. And then, leaning over the body, he prophesies this horrific civil war that is going to tear Italy apart. Cry havoc, that was an actual military signal. It meant take no prisoners, unleash total destruction. He vows that Caesar's ghost, hungry for revenge, is going to unleash the dogs of war on all of them. And that leaves us with the central question of the entire story, doesn't it? The conspirators killed one man because they said he was a tyrant and they wanted to save freedom. But in doing so, have they actually saved the Republic? Or have they just lit the fuse on a brutal, devastating civil war that's going to consume them all?